now I invite Professor Panduka Karunanayake, the chairperson of the Humanities Society and Professionalism stream, for some remarks. Sir.
Thank you, Santusha. Can you see me?
Yes, we can.
And hear me as well. Okay, thank you. So good. Thank you so much for a very lively, interesting discussion on this. And the idea of talking about this specific topic was actually Santusha. So thank you, Santusha. You picked on a very important thing. And we've already learned some interesting things like linguicism and the regional Englishes, which to me was a new thing. The fact that there are Englishes rather than English. And also very reassuring as well. I also remember how it was so difficult for me too at the beginning to learn proper English when I was an adolescent. I also did that purely because I knew that was important for what Dushanti called upward social mobility. And I know that it was very tough beginning in the first few terms of the medical school as well, like what Santusha recalled. And this is exactly the reason why it's an important topic for us as well as teachers and as students, because the main lesson that I would like to remember from this is that if you are a medical student, if you feel that this is very difficult, learning English and learning medicine in English is very difficult, I think the first thing that I would like to remind you is it is not for the first time that it has happened to anyone. It has happened to many of us, probably all of us. So to me also one of the most assuring, so let me tell that lesson first, that this is a common initial experience when you come to medical school. Some of us do well eventually, some of us don't, that is correct, true. But we have to take heart and somehow learn English and to be able to learn medicine well, and also gain the successes that you would deserve based on the knowledge that you have after learning. So I think this discussion focuses on the important topic of, okay, when it comes to learning English, is there some English or the English which you are supposed to learn, the British English or whatever? And is it correct to laugh at someone if that someone cannot pronounce words like that and write in proper grammar like that and so on? And I agree with the fact that in our students as teachers, we should not be looking for English grammar and spelling and pronunciation in order to decide how good that person is. To be a doctor, and the example that good English and good doctors are two different things. So in that way, it's correct. But I also like to sit on the other side of the camp also. So let me just put a few words on that and maybe try to create a discussion on that also. One thing that I see is, as an examiner, when I see a student who cannot speak or pronounce English properly or speak in proper grammar, it doesn't matter to me so much. I still try to go deep and find out what the understanding and the meaning of the subject that the student is trying to convey. So I think most of us as teachers are nowadays doing that. Era when examiners used to pick up on these mistakes and laugh at them is definitely gone now. And examiners are nowadays quite willing to accept those mistakes or what used to be called mistakes or what used to be called like mispronunciations. We are quite happy to just live with them, and examiners, we are not interested in those things anymore. So the Dushanti spoke about the intelligibility. That's why it comes in. If you can be understood, that's enough. And I agree that it's an important thing. But I said I'm sitting on the other side of the fence. So why am I sitting on the other side of the fence? That's because as examiners, sometimes I also feel that those who have acquired better English language proficiency also learn the subject better. and this is, I don't know whether you agree with me when I say this. I'm not trying to say that the person who hasn't got the proficiency doesn't know the subject, but I also wonder whether the person without the proficiency hasn't realized that person's full potential. But that's the problem. So proficiency still matters, not because in the exam we are looking for that as examiners, but because proficiency determines whether you reach your full potential. And you might be capable of going a certain distance, but you might not be able to go there not because you don't have the IQ or intelligence, but because lack of proficiency in the language stopped us. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. In a way, we are fortunate about having English like this because, English is what they call the lingua franca, that is the common language of the world, not the whole world, of course, but the more commonly used language. And in the world, there is always a lingua franca. There was a time in the medieval times when in our part of the world, Sanskrit was the lingua franca. So all the intelligent things, subjects were studied in this part of the world, this region of the world in Sanskrit. So I'm sure our scholars those days would have had to learn Sanskrit in our periveners and places, just like we are complaining about English today. Another 50 years' time, people may have to learn Chinese, the way that the Chinese as a country and as an economy is expanding in the world. So we are talking about English because that's a lingua franca, and that's because the British Empire spread throughout the world. And in a way, we are fortunate because we were colonized eventually by the British and not just the Portuguese and the Dutch, because otherwise our second language would be Portuguese or Dutch or Spanish and Dutch. And fortunately, they were followed by the English, so that we ended up learning English as well, which prepared us to see the world better, to understand what is out there in the world better, because English is clearly the lingua franca right now. It may not be in another 50 years' time, but right now it is. So let's count on our blessings and try to acquire proficiency, not because it's important for the exam, not because it makes you a better doctor necessarily, but because it allows you to reach full potential, because at the end of the day, the books are in English, the syllabus is in English, and the text is in English all over the world, even on the internet. So that is still important. While we learn intelligible English to be able to communicate, we also have to have proficiency to achieve our own individual full potential. And we can do a few simple things, like we must remember that speaking English is one thing and writing is another thing. So written English is also something which we are judged by, especially in international fora like journals and so on. And to learn written English is much easier because there are spell checks and grammar checks on the software, which is, all you have to do is click and it will check for you and tell all your mistakes. So you can correct those mistakes yourself before you give it to or show it to somebody else. So even if I can't speak proper English, I must be able to write proper English because I have got spell check and grammar check at my disposal. And also, I feel that someone who pays attention to details like the spelling of a word and things, never mind the fact that it is misspelled, but the fact that you are paying attention to detail makes you a better doctor. So that's a good mental habit, to not think it's unimportant, that the spelling is wrong, who cares? No, but if you pay attention to things like that, I'm sure you will pay attention to other things in life also, in medicine also. And you might be a better doctor for that reason. So I think I've taken a lot of time, so I have to apologize. When I was listening to all those previous speeches, I really got stimulated to share these things with you. I thought I'd jump to the other side of the fence and talk a bit about from that side of the fence. So apologies, but think about these things also. Yes, I agree. What matters is intelligibility. Yes, I agree. In an exam, we should not be laughing at people. We should be just understanding what they are trying to communicate. Yes, but at the same time, as a student, proficiency is important because it takes you further, and attention to detail is important because you become a better learner in medicine also. And in the end, we are lucky because this lingua franca, for some reason, landed in our doorstep. And then, we have it at least as a second language rather than French or Spanish. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Very interesting perceptions and some important messages to the students as well.